connotations and limitations we put on our dogs. So labels, limitations, things how we describe our dogs that are not necessarily true, that are not necessarily kind, that might not be true in a long run, if that makes any sense. So labels we put on ourselves, it's something we should address if we talk about dogs or our dogs, because the way we see our dogs, believe in their potential. So if we, for example, have a rescue dog, or we have a dog who is dog reactive, in our head, how often is this really like, oh, this is beyond, beyond repair. My dog has no other option. As I said, it's just a really quick video, but it's something that actually we talked about in the dog trainer course, and it's something I talk about a lot with my clients in my other life. Okay, yes, okay. So as a professional trainer, like a leadership development consultant and executive coach, I think label, self-concept and perceptions, or like self-talk, is quite an important thing for personal growth. So we spoke about labels and what it can do if we label our dogs. And I think it's like such an important concept to think about, because often we do this, don't we? So for example, having rescue dogs, if we label them as rescue dogs, so rescue dogs who had a tough past, who are beyond fixing. I mean, fixing is another word I think we need to talk about, because do we really have to fix a dog, or do we, just try to help the dog achieve their best potential to become the best dog they can be, like having the best life, most stress-free life. However, it's about labels today. And if we label a dog as, oh yeah, this is just what rescues do, and rescues are like this or that, it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy, can't it? Hey babe, Mr. Tuluk. Because it can become quite a self-fulfilling prophecy, can't it? Because the moment we attach a label, seeing your dog just like keen on ripping apart boxes. Right, so they're all gone now. Because it can become quite a self-fulfilling prophecy, can't it? Because the moment we attach a label onto something, someone, somewhat, it can kind of become an excuse, and we might even stop trying, can't we? So for example, if we would label a dog as a rescue and being doomed of like not being able to train their dog, then this is kind of like really bad, because we give up on the potential the dog has. We give up on the potential we can have in the owner-dog relationship. It's the same with age. I mean, I have a rescue who was 6 years old, which is not really old, but people would be like, oh my god, why would you get such an old dog? Can't train a dog tricks or whatever. And I'm like, yes, I can. And even if I couldn't, I mean, there might have been a chance that his potential would not go there, or that he would be too overwhelmed, etc. Then we wouldn't have trained tricks. Then we would have just eaten treats and be happy, whatever. But I could certainly do this. And I think it's also often for us, obviously, like we know, well, we potentially know this for people, for us, don't we? If we talk about limiting beliefs, if we talk about where we are holding ourselves back, negative self-talk, all these kind of things. However, working with dogs, I feel it's often, and not just working with dogs, also owning dogs and talking to other dog owners who have rescue dogs. I'm talking especially about rescue dogs. But it's the same for like lockdown puppies, where people are like, oh my god, it's a lockdown puppy, so, they can't be social. It's like different labels, obviously, that happen here. But it's just like such a dangerous thing to do. And one thing our trainer said, and it's just so freaking smart, it's to say, hey, he's not a rescue, and even if he is, he's now your dog. This is your dog. And I think this is so true, because going away from the label rescue dog, and yes, I mean, I have rescue dogs, and I love them and adore them, and I'm totally for adoption. So I will still label them rescue dog, but I think it's what you attach to that label. You know what I mean? Like, is it a limitation you attach, or is it just what it is? The same with like having a deaf dog. So often it's like, oh, it's a deaf dog. And I think I mentioned this in the video about being a first-time deafy owner. The lady from Deaf Dogs Rock says this. She says, first of all, it's a dog. Second of all, it's a certain breed. And third, he's deaf, or she's deaf. So it's just part of what or who the dog is, like what the dog is made up of. However, personality, breed characteristics species, like being a dog, etc., comes first, and then being deaf is just one thing on the list. And yes, you might have to treat them slightly different, and yes, you have to keep them safe, and yes, there are certain limitations, and yes, they can't hear. So this is obviously sometimes an issue. However, do you treat it as an issue? Do you treat it as a disability, or maybe just a special need? So yeah, I think it's quite interesting to have this discussion around, or like maybe not the discussion around, but having a proper thought about where do we put labels to our own dogs, where do we put labels to our own capacity for training our dogs, being with our dogs. I mean, there's obviously all the time the opportunity to get help. So if we have a limitation, then obviously it makes help to get someone professional in and to get help. However, I feel like often it's to give up finding a solution before we actually maybe have even started doing it properly. And I think it starts way early. For example, with rescue dogs, we already put the label and the limitations on before we even consider adopting a rescue. So I just thought this is really interesting, and I thought it's something worth sharing with you, because this, I mean, I was so aware of this with like people development and leadership development and personal development and like self-leadership kind of setting. However, extending this to owning a dog, I think, yeah, it was quite eye-opening for me, also for my own thinking, to really go back and see where do I put limitations on my dogs, and where do I maybe use this as an excuse to just become aware, because I mean, awareness is often the first step to change something, isn't it? So I just leave this there with you. Maybe you feel compelled to think about limitations you put on yourself or on your dog, or maybe on your client or your friend's dog or whoever. And yeah, maybe this just sparks some thought. I will see you next Monday, and take care. Bye bye.